Thank you, Mr. White. Welcome to Wednesday's December 7th, 2022 Wareham Conservation Commission meeting. It dawned on me today what December 7th was. I hope we never forget. And I'd like to take a moment to remember John Conley, who recently passed away. He was a member of this Conservation Commission and its chair. So I'd like to take a moment to thank John for his time and service to the town on this committee. Thank you. Thank you. We have minutes. I did send them out. I have some comments back, and I would like to review. Does anybody have any adjustments to August 3rd that I haven't been notified of? Anybody have any adjustments to August 17th that they have not sent me a memo on? Anybody have adjustments to September 7th that they've not sent me a notice on? Anybody have adjustments September 21 that I've not received a note on? October 5th. October 17th. November 2nd.
What happened to October 19th? October 19th is listed here also?
I haven't, it's back there.
Okay.
November 16th. And November 16th, I've listened to the tape several times, and all I can tell you is a female seconded the motion to deny the 91-101 Fairing Hill Road, and I couldn't tell if
that was me.
Okay, so I will make that adjustment. It came from this side of the table, and I couldn't tell which one. And then October 19th, does anybody have any adjustments? Again, there was a motion, they said, made by Ms. Parr. It was not clear who made it. I just said the motion was seconded, and I'll leave that in the minutes. I won't list the person who seconded it, just that it was seconded. Now, we have been told that we do not approve minutes anymore. We acknowledge that they exist.
Okay.
Okay, all these minutes exist. And I have a couple adjustments to make before I submit them to Sonia for submitting to, loading into the town website. So.
The town clerk as well, yeah.
Well, Sonia will take that. I don't do it.
Right. That's
Yes, she'll send it as a PDF file so it cannot be modified.
Correct.
Yes, so she will be taking care of that, printing them out for me. When I make the adjustments, I'll come in and sign them, and then Sonia will do her job. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sets of minutes. I need a motion to acknowledge, accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion approved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
600. We're set with our minutes. It took a while. Thank you. The first hearing was on the agenda for 77B, and it should have been 72B, a Scribner's error. But will you please read the proper notices were sent to the abutters, so please.
Okay, notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multicultural Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass, on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. On the notice of intent for Ryan Vaco, JC Engineering, 2854 Cranberry Highway, Wareham, Mass, 02538, to construct a permanent pier located on Assessors Map 22, Lot 1006A2, 72B, Burgess Point Road, Wareham, Mass.
Excuse me, we are hearing that conversation. I'd appreciate it. If you want a conversation, take it to the hall. Thank you. Who's here representing this project?
Good evening, Brian Wallace with JC Engineering.
Thank you. We do have a field report. Mr. Buckland, do you want to read it, or me?
I guess you could read it since it's from our consultant.
Yes. Okay. This is a pier construction with a ramp, float, and boat lift at 72B Burgess Point Road, map 1006, lot A2. It is land under the ocean, coastal beach, coastal banks, land containing shellfish. The interests to be protected are storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, land containing shellfish, fisheries, wildlife habitat. Land subject to coastal storm flowage elevation EL 20 zone VE. Did I read that right?
That's correct.
Okay. A site inspection was made to 72B Burgess Point Road on 12/6/22. The project involves the construction of a new dock, 209.5 inches in total length.
Should be feet.
It does have two little thingies.
Another Scrivener's error.
Okay, yeah, because the inches seems like a little. 209.5 feet to total length, including an aluminum ramp and boat lift. No dock or structure currently exists on the property, but the site has been cleared and erosion controls installed for construction. The clearing appears to be in close proximity to the top of the coastal bank, as opposed to the 30-foot setback for the coastal bank as shown on accompanying plan, proposed pier plan dated 11/15/22. The main question raised by the field site is, does the original order of conditions for the house construction permit lawn clearing up to the close proximity of the coastal bank, or as clearing on-site exceeds what was permitted under the OOC for the house lot? Now,
Madam Chair, could we have the plans? Copy of the plans, please?
oh, yeah. You two can share. Yep.
Do you know that?
I need to read it. These are all tiny. I went back, the original,
That's
Come in.
fine, fine.
Oh, he uses his computer.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken.
in May of 2022, we had a hearing on and permitted the single-family dwelling garage and in-ground pool. When we approved the construction, there was absolutely nothing indicated in that particular plan of any type of work done within the 30-foot no-work zone. I think that answers the question you had raised.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please identify yourself so we can have the both of you on the record, because we haven't even identified ourselves. I'm just so upset about John. Okay. Start with Kwame.
Kwame Bardi.
Denise Schultz?
Michael Mercier.
Ken Buckland, put
Sandy,
up on
Sandy Slavin.
Carol Melanson.
Nicole Curto.
Brandon Feniff.
Hugh Webb.
Thank you. Okay, so that was, the question was, there was nothing authorized in this plan to do anything within the 30-foot. It was just the house lot.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't have any background on it, and when we saw that, we got very concerned.
That's why I dug out my files. Okay. I've read to the project now. Brian, is there anything you want to add?
I'll just add a few things as far as the project goes. So it's a 161.5-foot permanent pier with a 24-foot ramp, a 10 by 30-foot float, and we're also proposing a boat lift. So just as far as construction goes, the majority of the structure would be constructed with a barge. There may be one or two sets of piles that would need to be constructed from the land, so we do show a temporary 10-foot wide construction area within that 30-foot no-touch for small machinery to get through and access those first set of piles. So I did just want to make that clear, and then it would eventually be restored back to a 5-foot footpath. We would also like to extend electric and water utilities from where the main dwelling would end up being located, underneath the decking all the way to the end of the pier, to provide those utilities at the end there, and also to provide power to the boat lift. I think that's all I'd add for now, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I know what's going to come up is eelgrass. So, Kwame, your turn. Any questions?
Well-
Or are you going to leave it up to Denise? He's ready.
I was just going to say eelgrass, but eelgrass study, but
Go ahead.
go ahead.
You can do it.
Is there any eelgrass?
Yes. Yes, there is. So we had a consultant go out in July, and he had identified an eelgrass bed on a previous project, 72A. It was that same delineation that the commission had asked for some clarification on. Dave had clarified that with the consultant, so that's the same exact delineation that you see on this plan. We are maintaining at least 50 feet of separation as required by the town wetland bylaw. So I think that should answer your question.
Thank you.
All right, I'm still confused about this eelgrass, because when I read his report, it states that it's between 211 and 218 linear feet from the shoreline. And that's not, I mean, if you're coming out 209, you're not 50 feet away.
Yeah, I think that the confusion with that, and, I wasn't privy to the conversation Dave had at the time with the consultant out there, but there is an overlay map as part of the report.
That I couldn't find.
Okay, I can show you here, and I'll explain it a little bit. So that was part of the report as well. It kind of clarifies what those distances are. The shoreline is sort of a vague term. I think the wording in the report probably could have been a little bit better, but that map shows that those dimensions are from the, I believe it was the mean low water line on there. So we kept it consistent, traced it based on that, and I think we are actually a little conservative with where we ended up with that edge of the bed. So hopefully that clarifies
It doesn't,
any
it
confusion.
doesn't to me. If you can just, I don't understand how you can go out 209 feet, and there's eelgrass at 211 feet, and you're telling me you're 50 feet away.
Yeah, so on that map, it shows the water line. You can sort of see it. It might be better on a colored image of it, but I looked back at the date and time of the survey was done there, and it was about a half hour after low tide. So we felt it was pretty consistent with where the mean low water line would be, and that's why we kept it a little conservative with where
But
we
he
ultimately
didn't say
drew.
mean low water line, did he? Okay. Eelgrass is probably 4 to 5 feet mean low water and roughly between 211 and 218 linear feet from the shoreline, not the mean low water line.
I understand. I'd have to-
I mean,
Yeah.
it's very confusing to me, and I would like to get it clarified in writing from this gentleman as to where exactly the eelgrass is. Because if he's telling me it's 211 feet from the shoreline, then you're not 50 feet away from it.
Well, I see what you're saying. I think the word shoreline could mean several different things.
Yes, it could, and that's why I'm really confused, and I really wish we would have gotten it completely clarified with 72A, but we
Right.
did.
Another reference point is certainly in reference to where that float was at 72A. I believe it was called out as 75 feet from the end of that float. And you carry that through to the 209, the 211, it's pretty consistent of a line as you follow the shoreline. So if it was all of a sudden 75 feet in, I think it would be pretty
Right.
clear, but that's not how it was described, I think, in the report.
Right, well, can we somehow get it clarified in writing as to what exactly this gentleman where exactly this eelgrass is. Because shoreline is different than mean low water line.
It's shown on the site plan that was submitted, the edge of the eelgrass bed.
Yes, but the engineering group, not the eelgrass group, drew it.
There's also a figure in the report showing it being from approximately mean low water.
But that's not what the report states.
It just says the shoreline, which is very,
Right.
it does have a figure, so if you want clarification, I'd say that's perfectly justifiable.
I would like clarification as to exactly where this eelgrass is, because eelgrass is important.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, it serves a lot of different purposes, and I just want to be clear as to where it is this time.
Okay, understood.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Brian, can you reach out to ECR and get that clarified for us?
Absolutely, and I'll have it in writing, and I'll provide that to you. Yep.
Do you need your paper back?
Oh, sure.
Anything else, Denise?
Yeah, no, that's my main concern, is to figure out where exactly this eelgrass is and that they stay away from it.
Michael, any questions?
Yeah, while the stock is not, what proposed dock, I should say, is not totally at the end of Burgess Point, it does begin to get towards the end. Any concerns that the dock plus any combination of the eelgrass might begin to impede on boats that begin to get into Onset Bay, or even or trying to get into Cape Cod Canal, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so we sort of addressed that in the notice of intent. So we're over 200 feet away from the buoys that indicate where the channel is as you pass going towards Onset. We're also 136.9 feet from the adjacent pier next door, and I think much further away to the other one. In a span of 600 feet, there's only 3 existing structures. So being 200 feet away from the channel itself, I think we're pretty far away from any boats, any boats that
Sure,
are
I just think
closer
to
than
start
that.
seeing issues start
Yeah.
to arise, where all of a sudden boats start coming out of the channel and into Onset Bay, all of a sudden start hitting the structure or other issues.
Yeah, they
That's
shouldn't
what I'm
be that
concerned
close
about.
if they were going to hit it.
Correct,
But I do understand, yeah. So we made sure just to check that distance and make sure we were well enough away. Unfortunately, just couldn't show it on the plan because it was so far beyond the edge of the floats.
All right.
Yep.
That's all, thank you.
Carol?
Yeah, I had a question about, in the eelgrass report, they mentioned sprigs of eelgrass.
Yep.
I'm assuming that was between the eelgrass bed and the shoreline.
So that is where they show the start of the delineation of the bed. So the sprigs kind of precede the full-grown eelgrass as far
Right,
from what I
so they're
understand.
closer to the shoreline.
Yes, but not any closer than what is shown on this plan. So the line that we drew on this plan is the start of the sprigs, essentially.
At 211
Okay,
feet.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Would you like to add anything to the conversation?
I would. Division of Marine Fisheries has a December 1 letter.
Yes, I do.
It's very strongly worded. Eelgrass, they state, and I'll read right from the letter. The project site lies within mapped shellfish habitat for bay scallop, American oyster, northern quahog, and soft-shelled clam. Waters within the project site have habitat characteristics suitable for these species. Land containing shellfish is deemed significant to the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Protection of Marine Fisheries. Then they go to talk about winter flounder spawning habitat, which is something they're concerned about as well. The bylaw also states in the dock section, section 9, shellfish habitat evaluation. Piers shall not be allowed to be constructed within significant shellfish habitat as determined by DMF and/or the Wareham Shellfish Constable. The absence of shellfish may not mean that productive shellfish habitats do not exist. So my question to you, Madam Chair, has any kind of shellfish study been performed to help comply with that particular provision of the bylaw?
I know of none.
So we have not prepared or submitted one, no.
So that's the question I have. As well as DMF is also talking about winter flounder. I think that's something that is on the table as well.
I believe also that the harbor master stated that this was both a recreational and commercial shellfishing area.
Yes, I read that as well, and that it was more commercial than recreational.
Recreational, yeah.
The project is also very, very close to mapped estimated habitat.
Can you use the microphone?
Yep, the project is also very, very close to mapped estimated habitat of rare and endangered species. So I was wondering if any kind of investigation has been done on that end.
Yeah, I can answer just a few of the questions, starting with the habitat. We do show that delineation on the plan, and we are beyond the limits of that, based on Mass GIS. As
right.
far, yep.
I'll tell you what Natural Heritage has told me in the past.
Okay.
Those polygons that they show are they're just as exactly what they're estimates. And Division of Fisheries and Wildlife has jurisdiction over the entire state. If they think you might be close, they have the ability to take jurisdiction. Those polygons are just guides. So being that close, it definitely raises a red flag with me.
All right, well, we could reach out.
We don't even know what the species is.
I found it very hard to find out what it is.
Well, they do that for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that
So-
because they don't want, the story is you tell somebody what it is, and then they'll go in and they'll destroy it,
Yeah.
all the rare flowers, and then they'll start the development. So they keep it very close to the vest. So it's basically the $50, you wait a month, and then they'll tell you.
Yeah.
So you're recommending a shellfish, is it shellfish study? Is that what's being recommended?
Yes.
Would the shellfish study cover the winter flounder?
Not necessarily, that's literally a different animal.
Well, I know that. I'm a commercial fisherman's daughter. Yes.
Yeah, good. I think that could be done at the same time.
Yeah, well, as far as the winter flounder goes, I think they list sort of the spawning timelines and whatnot. I think could come up with a condition where we avoid a certain time of year. Based on that, we're certainly happy to abide by that. And with the other DMF recommendations, we're happy to follow all of them, including passage over the eelgrass. They mentioned avoid it if you can. I think in this case, that bed sort of covers pretty significant portion of this bay area, so passing over it, or avoiding it is not really an option. So we'd be happy to designate one, designated channel to and from the main channel to our
Marked as
structure.
such with their own buoys.
Yes.
One last thing, Madam Chair. I noticed on site there are a number of large boulders, and those boulders are not shown on the plan. I just want to make sure that you're going to be threading between them, and we don't find out last second that, oh, we need to adjust the location of the dock, or we need to move a boulder.
Yeah, from what we could tell, the ones that you could kind of see from aerial imagery, we were able to avoid. Certainly, other boulders can be buried beneath the sediment, which we just wouldn't be able to find, so I can't guarantee
Yeah, well,
you'll
there's
avoid
3
it,
of them
but-
close to the shore.
Yeah. Yeah, we can verify that and make sure that those
So
would
what
not
we're
be
asking
affected.
for is, can you identify the boulders that are visible on the plan?
Yeah. We
Is
can
that what
certainly
I'm
do
hearing?
Yes, please.
Also, if I look at the Massachusetts division thing, it says that some of this could be avoided, but there is going to be a result of permanent impact to shellfish habitat and associated fisheries.
Yeah, so that impact is about 17.3 square feet. So that's the area that the piles would essentially be displacing. So that's really no bigger than this table. So unfortunately, that is part of it. But, we would say that, piles do support the ecosystem in other ways. It provides a little more area for things to grab on to, refuge and shelter for other marine animals. So I wouldn't call it a complete net loss in that regard.
Okay. Is there anybody that would like to come forward and speak to us on this project? I'm seeing none. I think we're looking for a continuance for, one, a clarification of the distance from shoreline, low tide mark, or whatever, what ECR means for the distance from, tell us exactly what the distance is from to the edge of the eel bed, and we're looking for a shellfish study and the inclusion of the boulders on the plan. Did I miss anything?
You also do the founder study?
Yes, in the flounder study.
Oh, flounder study.
That
It says the flounders don't disturb it between January and May. What more do we need for a flounder study? It says in this, leave them alone between January and May.
Right.
Do we need a study, any further study?
No, I don't think so. If that's their spawning time, then no, that shouldn't be an issue. We
That
shouldn't
would
need
be
it
a
done.
condition of no work time,
Okay.
Sounds reasonable.
okay? So, and I will correct the Scribner's error when I post the agenda for the January, what meeting?
4th.
4. So I think we need a motion to continue until January 4th.
I move that we continue this hearing until January 4th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And what was your name, sir?
Brian Wallace,
Thank you.
DC Engineering.
It's a new year,
Did I
January
say
4th.
22?
No, I just
Okay.
writing, I went to write 2022 and it's
January 4th, 2023.
2023.
So I pulled out what we did for roads, and I pulled out what we had done for the house for 72B, so I think I can put those files back. This is continued. We have a hearing for Scott Green at 17 Murphy Street. They have sent us a note to continue, wish a continuance until January 4th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue to January 4th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. We have a hearing for Salvatore oh, God, somebody help me. What's the
Santillaricho.
last name?
Delosito.
Thank you. Of 8 Grace Lane. I'm looking for a piece of paper. Who's here representing that project?
Madam Chairman, Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering, and with me is Sal Santillaricho.
Thank you, and I apologize with the last name. All right. Would you like to read to the project, please, Mr. Buck? And you can pass out the plans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't need that. I think I have one still dated 11/14.
Kwame, do you need one?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
You want the same report as the previous?
Yes.
The interests to be protected include storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, land containing shellfish, fisheries, flood control, and wildlife habitat. The resource areas include land containing shellfish and land under the ocean. The site inspection was made at 8 Grace Lane. The project involves the construction of a pier, ramp, and float system with an attached boat lift and land under the ocean. In the land containing shellfish, partially on coastal beach and within the coastal flood zone. A 210-foot overall length pier, ramp, and float system, but 195 feet from mean high water is proposed out into Buzzards Bay. Approximately 33.12 feet of green heart pile, 33 12-inch green heart piles are proposed to construct the structure. Piles would be driven from a floating barge. The proposed float would be 12 by 20 in size. An eelgrass survey was done indicating there's a patch of eelgrass in the vicinity of the proposed structure. Comments from Mass DMF have been received. They note shellfish habitat in the area and further state that the project will result in the permanent loss of shellfish habitat. They state that the area will likely be inaccessible to commercial and recreational fisheries. They also comment on the eelgrass and state the barges and boats should avoid anchoring or staging in eelgrass during construction when not in use. Comments have not been received from the harbor master. What is the distance from the structure to the identified eelgrass? A DEP file number has been received. Recommend a continuance for comments from the harbor master and for info on the distance to the eelgrass.
Okay. We did receive comments from the harbor master. I believe I forwarded it to everybody. I think it does not impede in navigation, and we have not expended any funds for shellfish propagation in this area. The area is open to shellfishing for recreational only, and a minimal of any shellfishing activity takes place in the area. The area is extremely rocky, so some issues with driving piles may arise. Those were his comments. Now, Bob, is there anything you would like to add to the reading of the site?
Well, I would just summarize his email to basically the harbor master is confirming that this is not a significant shellfish area. It's an area that contains shellfish. We provided a shellfish report with our initial filing, but as we had stated at the last public hearing, the shellfish habitat at this location is the same as the rest of this side of Cremisa Point, and particularly when compared with 274 Cremisa Road and 278 Cremisa Road, which were the two immediately adjacent piers which were approved by this commission in the summer, approximately in the summer of 2022. So at the last meeting, we had also submitted a revised plan to avoid that patch of eelgrass. The bylaw clearly has a separation distance of 50 feet from eelgrass beds. This is not an eelgrass bed. It's never been mapped for eelgrass beds, this entire side of Cremisa Point. I made some copies of the DEP shellfish suitability areas map. I have copies of that. Basically, it confirms that the mapped shellfish habitat is the same for 8 Grace Lane as 274 Cremisa Road and same as 278 Cremisa Road. And I think we discussed comparing these letters from the Division of Marine Fisheries, which I don't know if you had a chance to do so, Madam Chair, but I did. And so we have a new reviewer, doesn't need to be named, but so we have a new reviewer who has been using new language. I'm assuming it's approved language from Division of Marine Fisheries, where suddenly the driving of piles is a significant permanent loss of shellfish habitat. Again, the key to this whole, the key to this your deliberations is the fact that the harbor master is indicating that it is not a significant shellfish area. I go back to a May 4th email from DMF regarding 274 Cremisa Road. Here's the no recommendations email on the Barboza project. It's as simple as that, a one-page email. The 278 Cremisa Road project had a letter from a different reviewer, which has very similar language, but it just doesn't include that extra reference to permanent loss of shellfish habitat. So, you know, we have 33 pilings. It's less than 30 square feet of shellfish habitat that's being lost. I think we have in our opinion, a positive comment by email from the harbor master that this is not an inappropriate location for a pier.
If it was a request on one of the, for 274, they said shellfish would be removed from the project area prior to construction.
We would
How do you remove shellfish? Suck them up?
You rake them, sure. You would. They're quahogs primarily, and you know, scallops can flitter away on their own. But quahogs and clams, you would dig them by hand and just either move them 5 feet over, or you know, certainly we would agree to the same general and special conditions as those other two piers. We would offer them to the harbor master's office for relocation to a location of their choosing, or just move them out of the way.
Just move, because I was surprised that that comment was slightly different than we received for the other location that we recently approved. So I was,
Yeah, I
to
think
me, that was a weird response from DMF. Okay, questions? Is there anything else before I ask the questions for the board?
No, we would answer any questions that they may have.
Kwame?
Yeah, Bob, so could you explain how you do the pilings in that rocky area?
Yeah, they'd be driven as long as it's not ledgy, you know, they can, you know, they'll put the pilings in, you know, we have a minimum separation distance. If it's a problem, you could, you know, I mean, obviously we want to put it right in the location that we're showing it. You know, they have the ability to have an excavator on the barge that would just roll that, if it's a boulder, just roll it out of the way, or span it is better than that. But I don't believe this is a situation where it's ledge, and, you know, that the concern there would be that you couldn't drive them deep enough to prevent buoyancy, or just, you know, wouldn't be firmly grounded, if you will, during a storm.
Okay, thank you.
Denise?
I'm not sure where I want to start on this. You talked about the harbor master's letter, and we do consider his input, but his concerns are not always in line with conservation's concerns. So while we look for his input, we have different considerations than he does have. I also don't want to get into semantics about patches and beds, because if I'm looking at the bylaw, I'm looking at the spirit or the intent of the bylaw, and to me that is to protect the eelgrass and the shellfish and whatever habitat there is out there. The commission does strive for consistency, and if we had had the same concerns as from the Division of Marine Fisheries in the letters for, and you're talking about 274 and 278, would we have or should we have not allowed those? Probably, because these are big concerns. This is it's deemed significant. There's eelgrass in the area, and sprigs or patches or whatever. Eelgrass is thriving, which means it's a good thing in that area, and it needs to continue. And we need to protect these things. As I said, we strive for consistency, and the letters from the Division of Marine and Fisheries just has me really concerned about the spawning habitat for the horseshoe crabs, that it's a definite shellfish habitat that has been identified. Eelgrass is reported in the area, and you're not 50 feet from the eelgrass. And our bylaws are here to protect these things. We have jurisdiction over these things through the bylaws with altering how recreation is defined, that it includes without limitation the purposes for which the resource areas are used by the public, navigation, fishing, shell fishing, and as not to impair the ability of the resource area to provide these and other normal, customary public recreation uses. Docks and piers, when placed in land containing shellfish, have an adverse impact on these resources and the values of these aquatic areas. Docks, depending on their length, can have an adverse impact on the recreation, interfering with recreational boating and so forth. I mean, I know you know what the bylaws and the coastal structure sections talk about. And I think that there is a significant difference in this area than the area that you were comparing with 274 and 278 in terms of the shellfish, eelgrass, and a potential for disruption and failure to avoid and prevent unacceptable, significant cumulative effects upon the resource area values that are protected by the bylaw. That's basically what I have.
Thank you, Michael.
I got no comments, thank you.
Carol?
When was the eelgrass study done that showed that patch?
October 5th, 22.
October 5th, 22?
Did I read that right?
Well, we actually had one done over a year ago, and then, you know, just as time went on, we had the eelgrass survey updated.
Oh, October
So-
29th of 21. It's attached, yes.
Right, and so, yes, we attached both reports to the notice of intent. One of them was for eelgrass and shellfish. You know, the shellfish hasn't changed, and of course, it's the opinion of the, you know, we know they're there, but the opinion of both Division of Marine Fisheries and the Harbor Master are referenced in the bylaw. The Division of Marine Fisheries is using language that now is the same for every single location, and the harbor master knows the areas that are commercially versus recreationally harvested, the areas that he uses for seed, and so, and again, it is a very important distinction, a patch of eelgrass versus an eelgrass bed.
I don't believe
It
so.
is, and we do have the ability to continue to move this away from the patch of eelgrass if need be. If we have to do that to get the approval of the commission, we can do that. But what you're ignoring in the Division of Marine Fisheries letter is the conditions that they're offering to you for approval. They're not recommending denial. They're listing conditions of approval.
Let him
Covers-
finish, please.
Okay.
And so the construction barge should not anchor within eelgrass habitat. Construction activities, fuel spills. Yes, a new pier has the potential to negatively impact shellfish resources, but this is documented now by your harbor master as not being a significant shellfish area. It's an important distinction, and consistency, I mean, you know, to say that this is extremely different from 274 and 278 Cremisa is that's not, that wouldn't carry in an appeal.
The letter,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but the letter from the division is very different than it was at the other two sections. And our bylaws protect beyond the Division of Fisheries, and I'm not saying the name right. It's a home rule authority that we have, and they're stricter than the Division of Fishery and Marine and Fisheries. So I disagree with you.
Well, I have the maps, if you'd like me to, I should probably just enter it into evidence. This is DEP's shellfish habitat maps, so that you can see that they view the resource as being the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boy, what you do, run out of green ink, huh?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I think, in looking through the regulations, it says that in order to adequately prevent the disruption of eelgrass beds, no part of a dock pier shall be constructed within 50 feet of eelgrass beds. I think the question is what eelgrass beds means, and the interpretation of the bylaw probably requires you to amend it and clarify what eelgrass beds include, or if it's not a generally agreed upon definition in any other.
So our
location.
bylaw says the word bed,
Yes, it does.
and you feel that it is intended to be any eelgrass of any size.
I'm going with the spirit of the law and how I feel that its intent was. It's not to define what a bed is, it's to protect the eelgrass, whether it's a large portion of it, whether it's a patch, whether it's a sprig, whether it's one little plant growing. It's an indication that that area is very healthy and is an excellent habitat. To allow it to be disrupted by a dock just seems wrong to me, and it seems wrong according to the bylaw, to me.
There's nothing in the bylaw that specifies what the impact is when it's within 50 feet of the
Yep, the
eelgrass.
it just
They
says
have to stay
be
outside 50 feet away.
Yeah, it does say you have to be 50 feet away.
And right now, the plans we have of November 14th are within 50 feet of the patch of eelgrass, correct?
Yeah, I would say that patch, well, it's again, it's on the boat lift side, but, so that patch is, I would say, 25 feet
But even beyond
from
that,
the boat lift. And, you know, that's a patch of eelgrass where people would go and rake quahogs. If you were to scallop with a scallop drag, you know, eelgrass beds, that's where people go to harvest scallops commercially and recreationally. You drag a scallop drag
dock sitting there.
through it, and, I mean, we're being very responsible, I think, in agreeing to avoid it, but there's no prohibition on digging quahogs or dragging a scallop
Right,
drag
for the
right
public.
through there.
And if you're putting a dock there, then the public's not going to be able to use it. This is public property, the water.
Understood. The
And
other point of
the letter
information.
from the Division of Marine Fishery brings up a whole boatload of concerns, and it should have brought it up on the other two sites also, but it didn't. And I can only work with what I'm given at the time, and this is more information.
Would appreciate it if you would work with the new information that came from Gary Buckminster, the harbor master. I think that is,
Well, he doesn't address any of the concerns that the Marine and Fisheries brought up. It's somebody else's turn.
Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this project?
The other side of this table didn't get to.
Oh, I did?
You did me, you didn't do Nicole.
Oh, sorry, Nicole.
I just had one quick question. I don't know if I'm reading this right, but on the plan, it looks like there's arrows that say 13 feet from the boat lift to the eelgrass. Is that what that?
Yes, it says 13 plus or minus feet. Yes,
oh, yeah, I
on the second page.
gotcha. I was just looking at the first page.
And more of just a comment, I guess, because I don't know a whole lot about eelgrass, but Is it possible that a small patch of eelgrass would pop up out of nowhere and then not be able to survive there, and then it would be gone a short time later? Because I feel like there has to be a reason why there's large areas of eelgrass and then only a small piece would be by itself, like, could...
Sure, so I'm not an expert on it, but I know from prior projects that we had a project at 91 Edgewater Drive.
I knew you'd bring that one up.
Right, where we did a shellfish and eelgrass study, and we found some eelgrass, and, you know, and we tried to stay as far away from it as could, but then we went back, and it was gone, because the, you know, the bottom there was just too soft to support it, and that's my, you know, that's the only patch of eelgrass, roughly 7 by 7, you know, the 50 square feet, in that whole area that was surveyed, if you look at the report. So there's not one other patch, and the only thing that it seems to be holding on to when you look at the pictures is seaweed. So it's growing in some seaweed, and I wouldn't, it's not going to expand without having a, you know, firm bottom somewhere.
Right.
That's, in my experience in shellfishing, that when you have that firm bottom that can support eelgrass beds, then the eelgrass thrives, you can dig in it, you can go through with scallop drags, and the eelgrass will grow right back, and no harm, no foul. You know, in this case, well, you know, just again, he's got a boat haul line, he's got a mooring, he keeps his boat on a mooring, and there's boat traffic in this area every summer. And so now, with the pier, the boat lift, the float, no need for a mooring, no need for a haul line, no need to be in shallower water. There, you know, so there are other benefits, but, you know, I mean,
I have some more.
ECR does a great job of finding eelgrass. If it's present, they have the underwater camera.
I was just trying to determine how much of a difference it makes, whether it's a patch or a bed. Because
right.
if there's no more in the area, I would think that
It won't,
it may not survive very long.
you get a storm and it's gone.
Right, that's what
I mean,
I'm getting at.
Am I,
I would agree, absolutely, I would agree with that. That's what we found with Signoris. I think there was a good heavy rainstorm, and where they're located on the Wareham River,
it washed it away,
right.
yeah. Between our first hearing and our second, between the
Something
two,
like-
6 months between the two hearings, it disappeared.
Right, and, you know, the owner was adamant that there was never any out there, but ECR found some the first time, and,
Yep.
but, you know,
I have some information on eelgrass if you want.
Okay, wait 1 second. Anything else?
I don't think so. That's all. I was just trying to
Could
figure out how much it
you
mattered.
give us some insight to how survival this 7-inch patch of eelgrass is attached to a piece of seaweed?
Yeah, I'm finding this argument fascinating. Like Ken was saying, the definition...
Mr. White, can you hear him?
Okay.
Okay.
It's the question of whether or not you have, the difference between a patch and a bed. The bylaw states eelgrass beds. So what's the difference between a patch and a bed? Because there's no official definition for an eelgrass bed. So my opinion is it gives the commission a lot of leeway in making that determination. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. Yep, thank you, Bob. Eelgrass beds appear, they disappear, they shift location. Maybe by the time you get to next July, it's not there out of natural reasons. Who knows?
it's never been mapped for it, and there's a reason why.
It may have just caught on the seaweed as it was being relocated off of a prop somehow. I don't, sorry.
No, I
just
ju-
that-
but again,
So you can't
clearly
get
the other...
answers for them.
No, I'm just,
I mean, seriously, it could also be spreading to this area. That patch could be a brand-new patch that's going to start growing. But it isn't just the eelgrass. There's a lot of significant things in this area that the Division of Marine Fisheries has brought up in this instance. And I don't think we should be ignoring it. And I think if we would have gotten this type of information on the other areas, we might have come up with different answers as to what we would allow and not allow in the area. How do you ignore what the Division of Marine Fisheries says just because we don't like it and you want a dock? I don't know. It's just my thoughts.
You're looking at me. Would you like to add anything?
No, it's the difference between what is a patch and what is a bed, and does it make a difference? You know, if this gets appealed, this is an appeal under the bylaw, so it'd be going to court, not so much, it would go to the DP anyway, but it would also have to go to Superior Court. And there would be a big argument about the difference between a patch and a bed, and why is a patch and why should it also be considered a bed, and it's going to be about the quality of the argument. And I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Denise.
Denise has stated, you know, she thinks it's the spirit of the bylaw to protect these areas, and the applicant is saying it's so small as to be de minimis, insignificant, and then the judge is going to have to decide. I do think that the commission does have a lot of leeway in making a decision, though. The lack of exact definition actually gives you more leeway to make your call.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project?
Could I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
So, with this plan here, all of this work that's being done, you said, I believe you said from the beginning that you can get all of this taken care of without touching that bed, right? Or the patch, whatever it is, of eelgrass.
Yes, we
That your
would,
plan is taking that into account, so you've already planned.
well,
to
we've made the shift to, instead of being, on top of it, we've shifted over enough so that we've got 13 feet of separation. In the Division of Marine Fisheries, letter, they talk about boat traffic and ways to avoid, disturbing that area. Like I say, although, I don't know how many times he's driven his boat across that area just to get back and forth, out from his mooring. So, again, right, eelgrass beds are important for shellfish and fish habitat. The harbor master is saying this is not important, it's not significant shellfish habitat. So the two issues go hand in hand.
Madam Chair, my colleague Bruce has something to add, if you don't mind.
Okay, Bruce.
Well, I was just noticing, in viewing the aerials, that given the shallow nature of that area where the dock is proposed, it may be possible to look at previous historical aerials to get at least a sense of a general trend as to whether that bed or patch of eelgrass is expanding or receding as far as its size. And it's not the most scientific review, but it would give you that sense of whether it's coming or going.
So, yeah, and so you have both reports in that package. We submitted both, and so basically it's the same size, same patch, same location from 2021 to 2022.
I was thinking more like a 5 to 10 year.
Well, so we've got, I don't know if it's 30 years of DEP mapping of eelgrass beds, and there are many on the Marion side of Cremisic Neck, and it's never been mapped for this northeast side of Cremisic Point. Never.
And this was the patch that was in the seaweed, correct?
Yes, you look in the picture, and it's clearly embedded in the seaweed, and there are pictures in the immediate area where it's totally devoid of any vegetation whatsoever. No seaweed, no eelgrass, just a bare sandy bottom, a loose bottom, which is great for the quahogs. There's not much there for, fish or scallop habitat.
Okay, thank you.
I think one other consideration is what the impact is compared to 50 feet versus 13 feet. If there is a significant impact at 13 feet, more significant versus 50 feet, as the regulation requires.
What is next to this eelgrass is the boat lift.
And the boat lift is up higher, right? It's not at the bottom.
Well, so, yeah, it's electric, it goes up and down, but basically, the boat, when it's on the lift, is up and out of the water by, 3 feet or so. We're on the north side of that patch. There's not going to be any shading impacts at all. But you come straight, when you're coming in, I'm assuming you're just going to come straight in and get yourself on the cradle, get it up on the lift, unload your stuff, or maybe you're over at the float unloading passengers and things, fish hopefully, and then going back to the boat lift. But I've made as good an argument as I can make that we don't need to move further away.
Do you have a
I
plan
would
for the
just
boat
say-
lift?
Excuse me?
Do you have a plan for the boat lift? It's got pylons, 4 pylons, right?
Yeah, well, there's 4 pilings, 2 on the pier side, 2 on the outside of the boat
Okay.
lift.
Is there anything between the pylons close to the eelgrass? I see a solid line, but I'm not sure what that's made up of.
Is that the contour line?
No,
I'm not,
it has a heavy line between the 2 pylons that are closest to the eelgrass. Is that?
Sure, so that would be like a beam, a metal beam,
Okay,
probably aluminum. We're showing the size that we know is a common size, and then, of course, there's different makes and models and so forth, so we want him to be able to do his due diligence and, get the manufacturer and the warranty and that he wants, but basically, you've got 2 metal I-beams and then a cradle.
so if someone is bringing a boat to shore, kayak or a kayak or canoe, and they want to pass by the boat lift into the shore, they're going to come within very close proximity to the eelgrass, right? If I'm kayaking or canoeing and I choose to come in by the boat lift, I'm going to be close to that eelgrass.
Sure, yeah,
Just,
yep.
I don't see a propelled boat going in there because there's not a lot of water, but just could very well canoe over it. Okay. Any recommendations? I'm not sure where to go. I'm looking at you. Is there anything to continue for?
I think you have everything you need to make the decision at this point. Other than the information recommended by the consultant on the history, the aerial photos that might show changes in eelgrass beds in the area.
Okay. So,
Madam Chair,
yes, please.
just add this last piece. I think it comes down to the commission's idea of the importance of any size patch of eelgrass, whether it's called a patch or a bed. And if you do decide that it's more of a bed than a patch, reading through the bylaw, I don't see any section that'll, on like, how to go about getting a variance. I don't see any variance section here. So if you do consider it to be more of a bed than a patch, then it's not meeting the bylaw and therefore should be denied. But if you think that it's more of a patch and insignificant, then maybe it goes the other way towards approval. And I think that each member has to make that decision internally, and that's why there's not just one member on the board and there's multiple members. That's the democratic process.
Now, is there, other than the eelgrass, is there anything in this project that would support a denial? We have timeframes for the horseshoe crab. We have avoid the eelgrass. I'm going to ask that we remove any shellfish that may exist where the pylons go. There's the barge work. Will any work be done off of upland?
Only, the construction of the ramp and, just what's right on the land. Everything else would be from the water.
Is there enough water depth for a barge in there?
At high tide, we
Yeah.
would agree to the same general and special conditions as the other two piers.
All right.
I think you condition it with the recommendations of DMF and the additional requirements that you had.
Talking about late spring and early summer for the tides, for the horseshoe crabs.
Yeah, I understand the comment with the horseshoe crabs, but this is a very rocky shore, and so I think the
No, it gives you when they want.
no, I know, and so I'm just pointing out again that, horseshoe crab is really like a nice sandy beach, preferable much more so to this. This is a really rocky shoreline. I understand it's,
But
parsing.
they've indicated a concern, so, and I don't remember it being up in the other two sites.
It was not stated in the other letters.
No.
Different reviewer, that's
Yeah,
the only thing I can
This
point
is a
to.
completely different letter from the one that we received on the other two sites.
All right, folks, there's nobody in the audience who'd like to speak to this. I don't think we're going to get any more information. Are you willing to close the hearing?
I move that we close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The hearing is closed. Now, what would you like to do?
You know what I'd like to do?
I know that, I know that. Well, if we are to approve it, there are some stipulations that we can put in the order of conditions. Remove the shellfish prior to construction. Follow the recommendation of the DMF letter of November 1st, 22. Do not bring any boat between the boat lift and the eelgrass to shore. Do not do any don't go over that area. What's the
Well, how
word?
do you monitor that? I mean,
All we can do is put it in the condition.
yeah, but he won't do it, but anybody else could. It's public.
Then he
You mean
says
the-
to his visitors, please,
All right, okay.
respect this area. If you're going to come see me, stay on the float side. I don't expect everybody to be using the boat lift, correct?
But-
Your visitors would
But
come
if
to
you don't
you,
mind-
to the float and not the boat lift.
But if you design the dock and you put where you put the places to hold the boats on this side, then that could possibly have people avoid going over the patch bed or whatever on this side. That may be the only way.
So you're suggesting put a boat lift next to the float? Is that what I'm
No.
hearing, Michael?
No, what I'm saying is, if you put, if you were to design the dock to have, I'm not sure how to put,
Yeah.
to hold the boats on this side away from the eelgrass. That's the only way I could think of.
So put the boat lift on the side where the float is. Is that what I'm hearing you?
Possibly, yeah. I'm just
There's no
thinking
place
away
else to
from.
go, because you want that boat lift has to be by a float and a steady dock, because you're not going to go up and down ladders as the tide goes. That boat lift is a permanent height, is it not? It doesn't move up and down off of a ramp.
No,
does.
I mean, it's,
You'd have to,
it has a high, it gets up to the level of the pier, and it goes down to the level of the water, and that's the range, and so depending upon what tide it is, I'm assuming you have the ability to, as you lower yourself into the water, you go away, you can raise it up, either remote control or.
That boat lift keeps the boat out of the water.
Correct.
Regardless of the tide,
That's correct, when it's
Okay.
not in use.
when it's not in use.
And the boat lift would have less traffic than the float, so it wouldn't make sense to swap it.
Oh, it could not be swapped, because we don't want that float anywhere close to the eelgrass. All right. We've closed the hearing, now we need to make a decision. We have some stipulations we can put in the order of conditions. Anybody want to take a shot at it?
I move that we approve the project with the stipulations that they follow the comments from DMF, is that right?
Yes, on November 1st,
On
22.
November 1st, 22.
They remove the shellfish prior to construction,
Remove shellfish prior to construction.
and whenever possible, stay away from the eelgrass.
that's,
Second.
I don't know what
No,
I
but
don't know how you do that.
You have
but-
to do that, there's no
It doesn't-
work
it's-
between late spring and early.
Well, that's what it
Yep.
says, it's part of the recommended the DMF, and DMF has some timeframes in here that have to be
Correct.
adhered to, so it's.
Correct.
So we say, we refer to this November 1st letter, then we don't have to
List it
restate
out.
everything that's in here. I heard that motion.
Second.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor of approving the project with those stipulations, say aye. I'm going to cross the board. Nicole?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Kwame?
Aye.
Denise?
No.
Michael?
Aye.
Sandy? Aye. 5-1-0.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Okay, nothing gets started until you get the paperwork from our agent.
Well, correct, and we'll,
And
the
you got-
Chapter 91 license,
Well,
Army
that's
Corps of
gonna take some-
Engineers.
You got some time ahead of you,
Yes, Madam Chair.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
What number are we on now?
Oh, yeah. Great, thank you.
Okay, now we have a whole slew of certifications of compliances. Mr. Buckland, do you have any documentation on these?
No, all I have is reports,
And what,
verbal reports.
and just verbal reports? Okay, can you tell me whether or not any of these, we'll go down one at a time. 16 Arnold Street, was that built to spec?
Yes, it was.
So your recommendation, we approve the certification of compliance?
Yes, I do.
I need a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Okay, next one. 71 Charlotte Furnace Road.
This one was previously reviewed, and there was some hydroseeding that was necessary, and that seems to have taken hold and is working. So I think this can be approved for a certificate of compliance.
I say hand in the audience, Madam Chair.
Sorry?
Hand in the audience,
Sandy, there's a-
if you're taking.
So, just on Trish, can you come up? We need to have you. On 6.2, this is not a public hearing, so we're not subject to comments on it.
I understand. What I'm saying is, on 6.2 and 6.3, Borrego Solar Systems had spun off the group that we're working with, and the group we're working with, actually, who has been seeing us, is now known as New Leaf
That's,
Energy. So my question is, do we put the old name here or their new name?
we put the name that was part of the plan. They came to, this is, the Borrego Solar Systems are the ones that we get the approval to for the project. Ken, do you have anything else changing the name? Who's requesting the certification of compliance?
Nothing was submitted to Conservation Commission, but...
So we're going to approve the certification of compliance to the site, which is the SC 762519. So we're going to discuss that, and that's what we're going to approve to.
But understand...
Names change, owners change.
It's jettisoned. It's
I don't know
totally
anything, that's
jettisoned.
nothing to do with conservation. I can't deal.
So we're basic, okay.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, so here we have they've complied, they've done the hydro seeding, so we need a motion to issue a certification of compliance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstained. The next one, 299 Farm to Market.
This is the same condition. They did the hydro seeding, and it appears to be complete in compliance with the
Okay,
order conditions.
Make a motion to approve the project.
thank you.
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. Next one is 3020 Cranberry Highway.
This one's the McDonald's, and it's in compliance.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We have approved that one. I know that 16 Fisherman Cove Road, I put it on here because they are not in compliance, and we're waiting for a notice, NOI, or an RDA. I think we said an RDA. They didn't build a plan, so we have not issued it. I kept it on here so I didn't forget it. The next one is 10 Stone Ave. You wanted that one on here, Ken?
Yeah, they had submitted a request.
Has anybody looked at it?
Anybody who? I mean,
In Ken's office?
oh. Because I was going to say, we don't
No, we don't.
check it.
No. I'm trying to think what they did.
May I, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So I'd worked on this project with Sue Ann Murley, get Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering on behalf. So this was a notice of intent, which started out with a house addition and deck reconstruction and a swimming pool, if you recall. And so the swimming pool wasn't going to get approved, so we got an order of conditions for the deck reconstruction, a little expansion of that, a small addition to the house. And she had wanted to plant some blueberry bushes around the shed. And so the letters, we're certifying that everything was done in accordance with the plan, with the exception of she didn't plant the blueberry bushes. There's just not enough room around that shed. There's plenty of vegetation there already. And so that was a voluntary thing that she chose not to construct. And
Which means it didn't, so it wasn't a permanent structure that she did not choose to implement.
well, the shed was already there.
The
but- and
blueberry bushes.
Right, the blueberry bushes, they're just,
Are you comfortable?
I haven't walked the site, so I don't know what's...
Okay, so we will hold off.
we can, that's fine.
We'll
I just
hold off
wanted to
on
be
that
able
one.
to explain while
Oh,
since
thank
I'm
you.
here. So,
Because I'll leave that for Mr. Buckland or staff to do that one.
sure, thank you.
Now, the next one was a late-minute change of 12 Pine Ave Drive. Are you here to tell us why they're put on 6 extra feet on the top of the pier and expect to have a certification of compliance?
No, I came to provide the 53G funds, which I handed Mr. Buckland. So we're providing the 53G funds for Brandon and his company to take a look at it. I don't know if he has a report, but basically, we've identified some minor changes. The 6 feet in length is basically landward, so it's not a 6-foot extension out into the water. There was, the design showed the pier ending and then having a ramp, and they basically chose to just continue the pier right until it hit the land, and there's no need for a ramp. And they installed that end with 12-inch pilings instead of 8-by-8 posts, I believe. And they put a ladder on the end of the pier near the float. And so, I think we've accurately identified the discrepancies in our letter, Mr. Madden's letter that he signed, and we provided the as-built plans. And, we're hoping to proceed, get a certificate of compliance from the commission. We'll be requesting one from Chapter 91 as well.
Anybody got any comments on that one? Let's see. It says, the pier was 197.25 feet. It was built to 210 feet overall. You're saying the difference is what was placed on the shoreline?
Right. The first, the 197 that you quoted didn't count the ramp. So if you take the 197 and you add in the ramp, then we're about, 6 feet in total length different. It really is, an extension onto the lawn and not out into the water.
See, I don't quite see that. I guess we need somebody to go look at it for us.
We did go look at it.
And you have do you have comments on us? Do you have the original plan?
We apologize for not having ring comments, but it wasn't on the agenda, so.
Well, you didn't get the most updated agenda. We pushed agenda out late in the evening to include this.
Okay. Right, it's 210 feet, but the bylaw states no more than 200 feet from mean high water, so it does have a section that's above mean high water, right? Question I had was the height of the base of the stringers at mean high water. Do you have that? Was that ever stated? Because it seemed a little low to meet Chapter 91.
I'd have to take a look at that and see.
Here's the original plan. It says 5 feet clearance. Would you like do you
Yeah,
have
could
the,
you-
yeah, can you
yeah,
pass the original
most
plan
recent.
down?
Talks about
Michael,
egress.
can you carry that
I
down for
have
me?
the
Thank you.
as-built.
So that you understand.
I know, but I wanted you to see the original plan.
Thank you. Thanks, Bruce.
This is, what do we get into it?
So we called for a deck elevation of 7.5 on the design plan. It's a deck elevation, 7.5.
Madam Chair, it was not built to the plan. It was not built to the, this isn't a certificate of build it as you please. It's a certificate of compliance, and it doesn't comply with the plan that was approved.
That is correct.
So I don't see how you can issue a certificate of compliance and even consider issuing a certificate of compliance.
Unless they come back with amended order.
Correct.
Amended notice of intent. What's the word I'm
And it's
looking
an
for?
after-the-fact, would be an after-the-fact filing.
Yes,
The amended order of conditions.
amended order of conditions. So I need, what?
So just to answer that one question, so it looks like the design, the deck elevation was 7.5 on the design, and we're showing a deck elevation of 6.4 on the as-built. I think this was constructed in 2018,
Are they
19.
selling the house? Is that why they need the certification of compliance?
No, there's a 5-year timeline on the Chapter 91 permit, which says that you need to request a certificate of compliance from
Guess we need
Chapter
it- we-
91.
I guess we need a new
within the file.
plan, so we can review the plan as built.
The filing.
Well, we did submit an as-built plan for the pier.
Oh, but we didn't approve it.
Okay, you have to, there's only one way to start the official process, and that's to
Yep.
do an as-built plan and to file and request a certificate of compliance, identify the discrepancies, and then you have a discussion, and that's what we're doing, and so, we'll go from there. Maybe you need we provided the 53G funds, maybe we need to get the written report from Mr. Faniff, maybe not. But, I guess before we go ahead and file for an amended order of conditions, I think we've got to, we got to think about it, and we should receive some written guidance from the commission to that effect. Otherwise,
So you're looking for our consultant to give you a list of what is different from what we approve versus what was built?
No, we gave you that list.
You did that,
as
yes.
was our
So-
responsibility.
Right, that is his responsibility, correct, yes.
Okay, so what is our point now? Where do we go? We
Well-
can't approve it. We're not going to approve it as it's an order of conditions.
Okay, so I'm taking
I'm
it.
put it this way, I think we won't approve it. I think
certificate of compliance.
I'm speaking for the board.
I'm taking it all in, right?
Yeah,
And I don't know what the commission's disposition is on how closely the construction has to be to what was proposed, because the regulation states it has to be in substantial conformance. So if there's a change, a little bit of change here and there, maybe the commission's still, comfortable enough that it's close enough. But then at some point, a majority of the commission says, no, this is not in conformance, and this is going to either require an amendment, we're not going to approve it. So, this commission, does it have to be like exact? Is that how your past
we
decisions
tend to
have been
do
made?
some tweaks, an extra foot here or there.
But it's sounding like, what I'm hearing is
We
that this is a little
normally-
too much.
This is I think it's a little too much. Would
too much.
anybody else? I'm sitting here thinking, I think I'd like to see,
I agree with the chairwoman, that there's too many changes to what was
Okay.
approved.
Well, I would like to add that I would like to see what the height is at mean high water to make sure that it's meeting the Chapter 91 requirement.
all right,
So maybe we could work with your consultant and come back with some additional information, whether it's photographs, confirmation of, that we have that 5 foot of lateral access clearance at the mean high water. Maybe that would be the first next step, just to come back with more information for you. That doesn't tell the whole tale, just at the very end of the dock that, I don't know if there's a slope to this or not, but seems like we could come back with some additional information.
I have one more comment, too, that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the dock. Not knowing the history, it's a new house. It looks like a new house, anyway.
That's correct. It was
So that
completely
hap-
reconstructed with an order of conditions. There's 3 separate projects on this piece of property. The first was a septic system replacement. The second was the complete reconstruction of the dwelling, which has received a certificate of compliance. And the third, it
Pass that
received an
down,
order of
please.
conditions. We haven't applied as yet for the certificate of compliance for the house. But it was reconstructed with an order of conditions.
Okay, thank you.
What
So-
you see there is the beach area in which this dock has gone over.
All right, so with the 30-foot, what's your no-touch zone?
That
Did that
there
apply
was
to this?
there was a dock, there was floaters here, correct?
Well,
Yeah, it
there is a lush green lawn right down to either the salt marsh or the beach. And sometimes you have lawn creep between the time that you have a permit and the time everything is built. So I don't know what the history was, but I saw that this lush green lawn on what looks like new construction, right down to either the beach or the salt marsh. So I want to know if that was considered grandfathered or if that's a potential violation.
I guess I'd have to go digging in my files to find out what we said when we approved the house. How long ago was
I'm
that?
sure it was slow-release nitrogen fertilizer, I can guarantee that.
Right. Well, not just that, but is the lawn allowed to go down to the beach or the salt marsh at all and not have a 30-foot buffer?
Well, it wouldn't have had a 30-foot buffer.
Not in this case, why, though?
There's
Well, 'cause the
lawn.
house was- the house was there
lawn
at the
was-
time of-
The house
yeah.
was already there.
Okay, so it's a
It was-
grandfather situation.
I would think so. I mean, it's one
That-
of those things, they reconstructed the house, but the lawn,
Well, we weren't allowed any expansion. We only went up to provide some more flood zone compliance, but we were not allowed any expansion of the footprint of the house.
yep.
Okay,
So-
that's
Yeah.
the answer I needed. You know, I
'Cause-
apologize, I just don't have any
That's all
history
right.
on it, but knowing the bylaw, this raised a red flag for me.
Okay. So
I
we'll,
have questions. It's okay to ask questions.
yes. So we're set. You're going to do some more looking, correct? Okay.
But Bob is going to do a little more, I don't know, measuring and
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important to know whether this is a level pier or if there is a gradual, elevation decline from the land to the
right.
gangway.
The point I'm trying to make, sorry to interrupt, but the point I'm trying to make is if you don't have that lateral separation so people get underneath the dock, then you're going to have to put in stairs.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Anything else to be covered tonight? The two of you out there, are you here for a particular reason? We normally don't have an audience this late into our meetings.
I'm the owner of 12 Pine Tree.
Ah, okay. You understand why we could not issue your order, your certification of, okay.
I could say one thing. There is
Come on to the right mic so they can be heard and identify yourself, please.
Jeff Krasnowski, 12 Pine Tree Drive. Just to answer your question, on the original plan, there is a cant to the pier, and that's exactly how it was built. Meaning it starts higher and goes lower, but that's how the original proposed plan was submitted and approved.
Okay.
So that was just to answer the question about the elevation, the lateral elevation.
Anything else? Are you here just to listen to us?
I'll approach the mic if I'm going to be talking.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, we normally don't have visitors this late into our meetings.
Oh, guess we're popular tonight.
Madam Chair, Mr. Buckland, members of the commission, it is my intent to fill the position of your conservation administrator.
Oh,
So I've been
okay.
watching a lot of your meetings online. I figured I'd come in person.
And can you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Josh Flaherty.
Josh
Josh,
Flaherty.
Ferry.
Like Flaherty without the L.
And when will you, has he been hired?
He has been hired, but he's going through the process right now.
I think we're just waiting on some paperwork to be finalized.
Our next meeting is January 4th, so I hope to have you there.
I
I do
think that's
too.
doable, yes.
I'm sure he does.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us? You've been watching us online, and you still came in and made an application.
You're a brave,
Correct.
brave man.
I
Definitely a brave
mean,
man.
we're normally 3+ hours into a meeting, so,
Yes, I noticed that. Maybe we can work on slimming that down.
that would be nice. Nice.
But that's the only reason I'm here.
Thank you, and
He's come
welcome.
from Falmouth, as a matter of fact, too. He
I
was
wasn't
working.
going to say where he came from, but thank you. But thank you very much.
Of course.
Welcome aboard. and we'll get you busy because we've got some holes to fill between, here is this one here that I don't know what to do with, and there's a couple other.
I've been taking notes, and I'm ready to get started, so.
Welcome. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Somebody?
Motion to close the hearing.
Motion to
Well,
Adjourn the meeting.
motion to close.
adjourn the hearing. What
Close
time?
Meetings.
8:05.
Oh.
I have a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
6-0. Thank you. Thank you for coming, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
But am I going to get my paperwork?